I wanted to continue this sort of tone that we established in Man of Steel, but I really wanted to kind of sort of recapture some of the cinematic quality that I've always loved over my career and the movies that I loved growing up that inspired me. So I think with Batman v Superman, you're gonna get a movie that certainly lives in a real world, but certainly has, I believe, has much more sort of cinematic markers. We weren't really sure whether it was going to be a straight sequel or whether we wanted to kind of branch out and go in another direction, or how we were going to. We knew we had established a Clark Kent Superman character in a world that we now could build out from. And we just felt like it was an original and interesting concept to pit him against another hero, but a darker hero. And Batman was the perfect foil. And it just seemed like once you say Batman out loud, it's hard to beat it. It just is. He's been dealing with sort of the everyday world of being a superhero, but that there's a paradigm shift happening in that consequences of some of those rescues are starting to come now into fruition. They're starting to, he's starting to see that every action has a reaction. Like there's no such thing as just purely being good all the time. He's a veteran. He's been doing it for 20 years, being Batman. He's lost along the way a lot of his friends, and you know, he's kind of become really reclusive, as you would imagine. And you know, all that's left basically is he and Alfred, and you know, he realizes that, like, you know, his true legacy would be to do something about this global problem. You know, it's not just picking the weeds up of these criminals. And like, you know, because once you pull one criminal, another one grows in his place. And that's therapeutic for his issues. But the real work would be to kind of change the future of mankind, you know. You know, he's kind of the puppet master of the film, kind of controlling these two mega heroes. Forcing them into conflict a little bit, you know, behind the scenes. And it was important to me that Lex be in the movie because it felt like Lex is really the, you know, the big Superman villain. You want him to exist sort of outside of time and be like as big as Superman. And Jesse's done, I think, a really cool job with Lex in making him more contemporary, making him more like he's young, he's multidimensional, he's smart, he's also difficult to place, you know, he's all the things that you want from a villain, in the sense that, like, when you think you've got him figured out, he reveals something else about himself. To bring Wonder Woman into the movie just, it seemed natural and kind of correct, I guess. Yeah, and like, as I say, you know, Engal is, you know, so kind and confident and cool, and just all the things you would want in a Wonder Woman. And I just really, I'm just excited, not only for her role in this movie, but for her Wonder Woman standalone movie, where we get to really see where she came from and what her deal is. But get a little taste of it in this movie. Once you see Batman and Superman standing, looking at each other in a movie, now anything's possible, right? The worlds have finally like meshed up. And I think that the implication of that, of course, is that there's a massive universe, DC universe, that's just ready to explode.
Zack had this really, I think, great idea, is what if we introduce Batman to the equation? So how great would it be on the big screen? We've seen Batman and Superman in comics together, but we've never seen Batman and Superman on the big screen. So how powerful would it be to have those two big characters together for the first time? And of course, everyone wants to see Batman and Superman fight. This is a brand new Batman that fits into the world that we started to create in Man of Steel. So with the Batman introduction, he's different than any of the Batman we've seen before. He's jaded, he's been doing this, he's seasoned, he's been doing it a long time. And we see what effects it has. If you're a vigilante and if you're constantly chasing and fighting crime, what does that do to you after all these years of doing so? You know, how does it affect your body? You know, he has definitely battle wounds from, you know, all his escapades. But also emotionally, what does it do to him, you know, for years of crime fighting? I think when you see Jesse as Lex Luthor, I think his performance is so unexpected. It's dark, but it's funny. You can't take your eyes off of him when you're watching him, and I think people are going to be really surprised, and it's going to blow them away. Wonder Woman has just turned 75 years old. Don't you think it's time for her to grace the big silver screen? I mean, come on. I mean, she is one of the most powerful female heroes that we have. And we've yet to see her on the big screen. That's just crazy. She embodies so much strength and passion, and, you know, she is a role model for women and anyone, really, of all ages. So I think it's super important to introduce this character to theater-going audiences. We did a lot of the locations for Gotham and downtown Detroit, and there's something just real about the grit and the, you know, wear and the tear of the city and these buildings that have been there for a long time and have seen so many things. You know, I think the reality of these locations are hard to match by building a set. There's just something inherent in the DNA.
I never feel like you play Batman, you play Bruce Wayne. You know, that's really where your investment kind of is, and it sort of pays off in the Batman side of things. But, you know, Zack approached me and had a really specific take on the character and wanted to do a guy who was not 25 and, you know, mourning the death of his parents and deciding to become a vigilante, but instead is a guy who had been a vigilante for 20 years and was feeling like, what's the point? You know, is it worth anything, what we've done? And who then, you know, loses friends during the Black Zero event and blames Superman and kind of channels all his rage and disillusionment at him. I think it's interesting kind of to note that these two guys who are at total odds, you know, here in this movie, are actually really, you know, want the same things in truth, you know. I mean, of course, that's the question people ask is like, well, why Batman versus Superman, why are they fighting? Because everybody thinks of them both as good guys. And the movie kind of points out that, you know, two people who both consider themselves good guys can find themselves on opposite ends of a conflict. Classically, I guess, the Alfred character is sort of like a substitute father figure for Master Bruce, who's a little boy and he raises him after his parents are gone, and so he's a father figure. And this, because of the way that it was reconfigured, he's almost more. He's not a father figure, you know, like the character and the way I played it. It's not a guy looking for a father figure. He's more an old friend that's been through kind of the war with him, and who is the one person who can probably speak to him honestly. I give Gal credit. I think she's just a movie star. I mean, she's beautiful. She's strong. She's assertive. She's a really good actress. You know, she's exactly who you would want for that part. We shot in Detroit, and there was a real kind of underdog spirit and a tenaciousness and a pride that the people of Detroit have about their city, and that definitely, you know, influenced the way I sort of played, you know, Bruce's feelings about Gotham City, which is that he loves it, and he knows that other people kind of like look down on it, and he knows that it's had its troubles and its struggles, but it's it's incredibly close to his heart, and obviously it's a place that he goes out and puts himself on the line every night trying to protect. The story for Bruce Wayne begins with this Black Zero event, what they called the end of Man of Steel, where Zod was fighting Superman, and there was lasers ripping apart buildings and things were blowing up, and he goes rushing back to his building in Metropolis to see because of his people that he wants to take care of and get out and see if they're okay. And when he arrives, he's only in time to see the building kind of get sawed in half, and what happens to the people that were in that building, and that leaves that like scar on him, is what drives him through the rest of the movie.
We do need these kind of characters because they provide ideally, they provide a perfect example of what to do and how to be and how to behave through one perspective or another. And so they're wonderful characters to compare ourselves against and to compare the actions of others against. A lot of people want to direct their fear at something, and whether it be at everyday real-world stuff, or whether it be at this new God in the sky, or whether it be them praising this savior, or hating him. These are the things which he faces. He's still trying to do the right thing, and do the right thing by everyone, and ignore the slings and arrows. But at the same time, try and find an understanding and get a closer connection to humanity. He has a connection to humanity through Lois and Martha and through Jonathan as well when he grew up. But otherwise he needs to study humans and their reaction to him so he knows how to be and how to best serve the human race. The relationship between Martha and Clark is the one constant. It's the one thing which hasn't changed. She will always see him, as every mother does, as a little baby, as a boy growing up. He may be a lot bigger and stronger, but he's still her little baby. And I think he will always see her as the mother figure, as the one to go to, the one to ask, why doesn't it make sense? And or just say, it hurts. Fix it for me. When it comes down to Batman, Clark, Superman, doesn't agree with the way he carries out justice. He understands that Batman is trying to do this justice thing, but Clark's view is entirely different. His view is go about it in an ethical manner, where Batman is at any cost inflict justice. And so that's essentially where they come to blows, because they're trying to achieve the same thing, but through entirely different methods. I think now's the right time to bring Wonder Woman in, because we have Superman, we have that baseline, we have the flip side of the coin, which is Batman, and we're missing that third essential piece of the triangle, which is the female power, and how that is approached, how justice is approached from that direction. The setting of the world is a world in which Superman exists for the first time, and so it's a world in turmoil, in flux, and it's the human response. So you see the human response in Batman, who fears him. You see the human response in Lex Luthor, who hates him because he hates a part of himself.
I think she's important for everyone. First of all, little girls can see and be inspired to know that they can be strong and independent and sophisticated and just powerful women when they grow up. And for little boys, they know they can respect other women. And I think that Wonder Woman brings a lot of values with her, rather than the fact that she's very strong and she has this amazing strength. She's been around for so long and she's very wise. She knows how to choose her battles. She can read a few steps forward. And I think this is a very important character for all people to see. It's hard to change the world. And she's been there for so long, for centuries and centuries. And I feel like in a certain time, she felt like she couldn't do anything in order to make the world a better place. And so she left Wonder Woman aside and was just Diana Prince. But I think that in our current story, she has no choice but come around and be Wonder Woman again. Working with Zack is amazing. I mean, he's so easy to work with. And he's such a good director. He knows what he wants to get. And the reason why he cast each and every one of us is because what we bring to the characters. He's so women friendly. He's very into women empowerment, and I think that for him personally as well is very important to show a strong female on the big screen that is equal to the other heroes, superheroes. It's the first time really when you get to see the three of them on the big screen, and it's just, you know, when I saw one of the playbacks that we did on the first day that we shot the three of us together, I needed to, you know, I needed to pinch myself and see if it's true, because it's so strong. It's like I was kind of shell-shocked at the beginning when I saw the playback. It's very, very powerful just to see that they're all iconic. I mean, every house all around the world knows who Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman is, and be part of it and actually create it is out of this world. I mean, it's crazy. I think that although Batman is a very dark, weary character, and Diana is pure and optimistic and these kind of things, they have a lot in common. They share a lot. So I think that's why their arc works really well together, and it's really interesting because both of them are trying to isolate themselves from the mankind world in some kind of way.
And I guess that's what makes it this kind of great mythology, is that, you know, there's this kind of very entertaining core element, which is that this kind of, you know, kind of dark, enigmatic, ultimately evil person wants to kill this bright, you know, kind of sunny, you know, open character who's good. And I guess that's what makes it an interesting mythology. As an actor, it's kind of interesting because, you know, you can kind of treat it with maybe a greater theatricality because it has this fun history. So it's not, you know, supposed to be a direct reflection of either realism or modernity. You know, it kind of lives in this kind of theatrical and timeless space. We'd probably diagnose him today as some kind of narcissistic sociopath or something, where he doesn't view, you know, he doesn't have, you know, what we would consider maybe like kind of empathy. He sees people as kind of, you know, paper dolls, pawns. And in the context of that, you know, pathology, he's funny and charming, but in a way that is in accordance with people who are horrible. They're funny and charming, but it's because they have no, kind of real empathy, and so they're manipulative and using that persona in a manipulative way. He does that, as an actor. It's really fun because, you end up being able to do all the things that you're not allowed to do in public without getting arrested, and you're able to kind of charm people in a way that is kind of gross, but it's fun to, I guess, act out in a safe environment. Lex really calls Superman out on that. With great power, comes great responsibility. Lex says, yes, well, if you take on that responsibility, then you can't be a good citizen, and you really shouldn't exist. No one should be more powerful than anyone else. You, by virtue of your, let's say, genetic makeup, are superior, and that can't exist. Of course, the flip side of this is that Lex wants to be the most powerful person. But Lex says, well, no, it's okay if I'm powerful because I'm a person, and I've created this thing, so, well, I've earned it. He's a clever person, so he kind of uses, wordplay and puns and things that kind of clever people who, I would say, want to talk around their recipient use. Superman does not use wordplay. Superman is not, thinking of funny ways to phrase things. It's just not in his nature. Lex uses that kind of ability and inclination in an antagonistic way to trick Superman, to make him feel stupid, to belittle him, to condescend.
I think what I like about what her path is on this film, and there's definitely, she's always in pursuit of truth, and she needs to find truth in order to have sort of a sense of self. Like, if she's not in the pursuit of truth, I think she feels lost, and so that's always a part of who she is. But in this one, I feel like the truth is something that she's pursuing in order to help her man to sort of clear his name, so to speak. So I like that in this one, she's coming at it from not only a journalist, but as a woman, and really kind of feeling powerless about what's going on with Clark and wanting to help him in the only way she knows how. I think that's why the relationship works. I think she sees him as very human, and it's that part of him that she connects with. And the part of him that she finds superhuman is his soul, not his strength. Jese does a wonderful job in creating this sort of on-the-edge person who feels the need to manipulate society, and you get that from Jese, his portrayal. It's sort of, he has to be the smartest person in the room, and he's not balanced. Let's just put it that way, he's not balanced in the least. So I think there's some sort of fantasy fulfillment in getting to watch these superheroes sort of live out these powers and these lives that we can only have in our imagination. So thankfully we have people like Zack who aren't afraid to bring them to life so we can live vicariously through their powers and, sense of justice. But that's what I love about working with Zack, is his imagination is limitless, and he really thinks big. He sees the entire scope of the film, and he's not afraid to go after it. It's always wonderful to see it all come together, because we work on these very small set pieces, and then they build everything around us from the green screen. And so I'm always looking forward to seeing these films, because it takes you to a completely different place than you were even when you were filming it.
When we did Man of Steel, in talking to Zack about it, the relationship between Lois and Perry, if Perry White is sort of a father figure at the Daily Planet, Lois Lane is his favorite child, right? Like, he, even when he's angry with her or disappointed with her or doesn't agree with whatever it is that she's pursuing, he has so much confidence in her gifts, you know, and her strength as a reporter and her passion for it, that, you know, sometimes he's willing to sort of look the other way. As a fan of the whole comic book world, it's been 70 plus years, right, that these characters have been around. And so to finally see all three of them in one film, you know, there's a lot of anticipation around that, a lot of expectations. But I think mostly, you know, mostly just kind of a wonderful childlike excitement to see these heroes sort of come to life on the screen. Superman's this, you know, alien being from another planet who has all this power. And there are those here living on Earth who feel that it's not safe to have somebody who's that powerful running around who cannot be checked. And Batman makes it his business to figure out how to do that. And that's really the heart of the conflict of our story.
She's forged her own life going forward from the adversity of becoming a widow, and the fact that her son's identity is still somewhat protected, but the whole world knows about Superman. So he is now an entity that people think they know, but they still don't know his identity. So it's this halfway situation that we meet. Martha's understanding of her son's predicament, and also because only she and Lois know that Clark is Superman. He feels a sense of duty, which one would if one has that disparity of power that he possesses compared to everybody else around. But her strength is her honesty with him, and he takes strength from that honesty, and her willingness to say, "Hey, you don't owe these people. It's not an obligation. You got some soul searching to do as far as what you are and are not willing to do, and that is a personal choice, and it is not like some mantle that was placed on you from the gods. You know, you are still an individual, and you have these individual choices to make, and remember that it's not an obligation." And that's a tremendous thing to be able to hear at a critical moment of moral dilemma. It doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it reminds him of who he is. It's so wonderful to work with Zack, who I trust implicitly and has all the answers. Oh my gosh. It's so wonderful to be able to trust him, and he has inhabited this world so thoroughly and thought about it from so many points of view.
I think one of the strong things about certainly this script is that it really reflects in a slightly stylized way, but it reflects the pressures on us in life. You know, do we just accept, or do we try to change? And if we try to change, how do we do that? How much are we prepared to rock the boat? How much is it worth? The first time I saw the Batmobile, I was extremely excited because I like vehicles, and I saw that actually on an outside set. But there it was sitting in the Batcave, and very clever design. I mean, it's, you know, you can believe you're there under Wayne Manor. You can believe the way it hangs from the ceiling. And of course, being a little bit of a hands-on man, I loved all the tools and all the equipment and all of that. I mean, I like the coffee machine too. It's a very nice coffee machine in the Batcave. No, I was blown away by it. I thought this is, and also, of course, fantastic to shoot. I mean, cinematic, graphically, a great space, a great space. For me, working with Zack, it's been completely real. I mean, he takes it wonderfully seriously. I mean, it's very, what as an actor you always have to try to do is to understand the style, whether it be Bernard Shaw or whether it be Batman. There is a style, and there have been various styles in these types of pictures, sometimes slightly tongue-in-cheek or a bit camp or whatever, but this is very real.
The thing that attracts me to the character more than anything is the fact that she leads not by an emotionality, but by reason. And often in the political world and in the world of the 24-hour news cycle, emotionality can kind of take center stage with politics because it tends to grab attention. And I think that's not her motive in any way. I think she considers for as long as it takes until she organically arrives at a decision that is based on thought and on the future rather than any other component. He is such a confident leader. And the set remains very tight, very focused, and very loose. You know, it's all of many fantastic things because of him. I think, you know, for a shoot to be as long as this one, people have a fabulous time on this movie because the atmosphere is very creative, very respectful. But at the same time, playful, because Zack is always very playful, he's very exploring, he's always thinking, he's always wondering. Jese brings up kind of a lightning quick Quicksilver, very verbose intellect that's exciting, and the speed with which he makes transitions is fascinating, and he's light on his feet and nimble, and I think that makes Lex exciting.
One of the great epic stories that was told in the comics was when Batman and Superman squared off against each other, and we felt that there was a compelling reason to tell that kind of a story today, where seemingly you might have two individuals who, one being almost a god, if not a god, and the other being the best that humanity has to offer in terms of what he's done to himself, how he's honed himself physically and mentally for a specific task. And even though on the one hand it might seem that they in fact should be allies, their approach is so different to a similar cause that it makes them enemies. Bruce Wayne in Batman vs. Superman, he's a more mature Bruce Wayne. He's more in the public eye because he still is the imprimatur of the town of Gotham in terms of what they want to project as what's great about Gotham. And the Wayne family have been the great benefactors, and the symbol of the Wayne family is really Bruce Wayne. So even though he has a reputation of being a playboy, and even though he has a reputation of maybe drinking too much and womanizing too much, he still stands up all the time when called in order to be there for what the needs of Gotham are. Batman, on the other hand, he's also tougher. He's also wiser. But he's also showing the signs of a guy who's been doing it maybe a little bit too long. And in so doing, he is more comfortable with the mask on and in the suit because it allows him to actually live out his rage. In the 2 years that's transpired, Superman, when we left him in Man of Steel, had just presented himself to the world. And he did it in a rather magnificent way. He saved the world. So in the 2 years, we've watched him become the world's hero. But as the world and the press so love to do, they love to take you up and give you godlike status. And once they've done that, then the critics come out and start to tear you down. And it's the yin and the yang of it. So as the film opens, we begin to see that there are actually critics of Superman, that there are reasons to be worried about Superman, because even though he's doing great things, he decides which great things to do. And he decides whether or not he's going to cross international borders. And he doesn't take into consideration heads of states' opinions about his actions because he's Superman. The vast majority of the population of the world knows who these characters are because they've all grown up with them. So they're embedded in our culture. They're embedded in the world's culture. And it's really an honor to be part of presenting them in a new way, in a refreshed way, but in a global way that's never been done before. We felt that if we were going to expand the universe, as I had said earlier, we should really be looking to expand it in a way to embrace the other godlike entity in the DC library, which is Wonder Woman. And it's just been thrilling. I'll never forget the first day that Gal came onto the set, and she was in her Wonder Woman outfit and Wonder Woman costume, and it was very emotional.